Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest. He is a musician, a writer, a journalist, an artist, road manager for Guns N' Roses. He is, of course, now the author of Consensual Violence, Mr. Del James. Del, welcome in. How you doing?
Hey, John. Thank you for having me.
What is going on in your world and what's going on with consensual violence?
Wow, what isn't going on with consensual violence? Consensual violence is my lucha-centric, ultra-violent graphic novel that came out late November, early December, and set in the world of Lucha Libre. It's only natural that I do podcasts like this, like Blue Meanie and any other wrestling related, to spread the word. And my goal is to be the greatest, the most devastating, the most wonderfulest wrestling graphic novel of all time. That's all.
So where did the idea come from? What's the genesis of consensual violence?
El Santo and Blue Demon are to blame. I was watching
Nice.
one of their movies one night, and I don't remember which one it was. And just the whole beauty of grown-ass men driving cars with masks and capes on. It has such an allure to it. It has such an intrigue to it. It has such just a ballsiness to it. So I started thinking, how can I create a scenario where two luchadors or luchadoras are in a predicament where they're wearing their costumes, but they don't have superpowers. And it's a life and death situation, which is what happens indeed in consensual violence.
Man, I love it. Are they wrestlers as well? Are they doing some wrestling in it? You know what I mean? Like, is that their day job?
No, that's exactly what it is. They're Luna Vampira in black and La Viuda de Frankenstein in green are the recent winners of a dreaded showdown, 2 out of 3 falls match, blah, 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 blah. They're on their way. They've got Gringos Locos heat. They've got Arturo and Eddie type heat on them, okay? And they're the heels, they're the villains. So they're on their way to their next destination late at night when they get pulled over by the cops. Cops see 2 chicks in a car and they're like, "You're muling drugs." They're like, "No, we're not. You just can't choose where you work." And then the cop sees the bag with their masks and the belts, and he's like, "Oh shit, you're not drug mules. You're the new champions. Can we take a picture?" So the girls are maintaining kayfabe, and they're like, "Yeah, but we got to put our masks on." And he's like, "Of course, put the masks on." So they put their masks on. They take the picture. Shit happens, and then suddenly they're in a situation where they're clad in their attire, but surrounded by a cartel, surrounded by gang banging, Los Manchus, my make believe cartel, and they gotta fight for their lives.
I love it. Look at this. I love it. And it's kind of funny too, like thinking about like El Santo and how to getting the inspiration from him. His movies seem like they were kind of like cool and different. There are some wrestling movies that you see that are like hokey and and a little off. So this is kind of cool, kind of going in the cool direction rather than the cheesy hokey direction that you see a lot of the wrestling movies go into.
I am a big fan of the exploitation films of the 70s and 80s. Okay. Kill Bill is an influence upon me. Thriller, A Cruel Picture, I Spit on Your Grave, Ms. 45. Something horrible happens to our protagonists and you want them to get revenge. That's the same situation that arises in consensual violence. And yeah, it's totally, it started off as a film script. It started off as a movie script that was later on adapted into a graphic novel. So the dream has always been for it to become a movie and for it to become, as you were saying, a cool movie.
I know like a lot of the Santo posters and stuff, just as far as like that, like kind of in the same vein of like wanting to look cool rather than look, like cheesy or corny or even like wrestling related, where you're trying to go a little sports entertainment-y. I don't know. I always thought the El Santo posters were cool.
They're beautiful. They're works of art. Those hand drawn, hand painted movie posters of yesteryear that no longer exist, that have been replaced by photographs, and they just don't have the style. Think of the movie poster for Star Wars. That's a beautiful painting. And the Santo films are the same, whether he's fighting werewolves or mummies or the mafia. It doesn't, the initial allure, the first image, the movie poster, those are super dope. And that was part of the logic for this cover. Like if I'm being totally objective, if I saw that in a comic book shop, I'm drawn to it. I am buying it because the artwork of the cover grabs me. And that was true of us who grew up in the VHS store era. You would go and peruse the box covers, and if something was trashy enough, if something was violent enough, if something was alluring enough, you took a chance and rented that, the Seven Doors of Death, the I Spit on Your Grave titles, Make Them Die Slowly. What a fucking title, Of course I'm renting that.
A lot of cool Charles Bronson movies too, with a lot of the revenge like that too, which is cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Death Wish 2, which is even sleazier than Death Wish. The Exterminator's a great revenge film. Vigilante's a great revenge film. Ms. 45. And all of these films had an influence upon me, and of course upon Consensual Violence.
Little High Plains Drifter with Eastwood, getting some revenge on some people. Yeah. Taking them to hell. Yeah.
You are indeed taking the bad guys to hell.
Love that. This is such like a cool idea, but it's almost like you have been kind of building it up, like you said, like your whole life. You love lucha, you love wrestling, you love the wrestling business.
I am so intrigued and fascinated by professional wrestling, and it goes back to my earliest years. I am fortunate enough to have seen both Superstar Graham as well as Bruno Sammartino defend the WWF title.
Wow, nice.
I was watching on UHF 47 in New York, NWA Wrestling from Los Angeles, with John Tolos, with Roddy Piper, with Chavo Guerrero, with Raul Mata, Gordman and Goliath. I'm of that age group that bought the Mark magazines, that bought the bloody cover, the Wrestler, Inside Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, these magazines that promised you stories about, the night they tried to kill Dusty Rhodes. Of course I want to read this. And he's covered in blood on the cover. The night Ernie Ladd caused a riot. Of course I want to read these things. And between comic books and true crime magazines and wrestling magazines, you had plenty of action to go around.
Who was your guy, like when you were growing up, like your favorite wrestler? Who was like the guy you followed the most?
All-time favorite is Bruiser Brody. All-time favorite, best big man brawler, guaranteed action regardless if it was a high school or a stadium. Believable, athletic. Brody's my guy, but I was always a fan of the heels. I always loved the villains because I thought they had more personality. When Fred Blassie or the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, or years later, Bobby Heenan would cut the promo with whoever the villain of the month was, I was spellbound. Freddie Blassie and Stan Hansen talking trash together. The Grand Wizard with whomever his latest protege was. That was the show. The show was not the squash matches on WWOR TV, Channel 9 in New York at midnight. The draw, the appeal, the hook was watching the promos get cut. And then, oh my God, I have to go to the Westchester County Center to see Superstar Graham versus Ivan Putski.
Love that. So you're a New York guy through and through.
I grew up in New York. First match was 1975 at the Westchester County Center. And then I moved out to Los Angeles at age 21, 1985.
Nice. I feel like that's still a great area, by the way, at Westchester area for wrestling. I know they don't run there as often, but when they do run over there.
That's the oldest running building for professional wrestling in America, the Westchester County Center.
Wow, didn't even realize that. That's awesome. Makes it even better.
Yeah, I went to 3 cards there as a kid. I saw Bruno Sammartino defend the belt against Waldo Von Erich, against Blackjack Mulligan, and then the other one was Superstar Graham versus Ivan Putski. That was the main event. And when Billy Graham comes out, little kids like myself, 5th grade, 6th grade, go running over to get a closer look and heckle him and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Billy Graham throws a punch about a mile over every little kid's head, and like rats scurrying, we all ran back to our seats. Dad, Billy Graham almost killed me.
What a heel. What a great heel. He even scared the kids.
But he also fascinated the kids, between his lingo and his attire and the physique that was unique at the time. Superstar Graham was a total package. And, now the documentaries speak about how they should have possibly kept the belt on him longer. New York was in love with Superstar Graham. The East Coast was in love with Superstar Graham. Villain or not, it didn't matter. And that's one thing that I think holds true even to this day. It doesn't matter if you're a heel or a face. You don't have to be a baby face to get cheered. It's cool or not cool. You know what I'm saying? MJF, the nastiest villain in AEW, is cool. He will have his fans, his supporters, et cetera, et cetera. When Moxley was straight up heel, he was a cool heel, and that translates. And I think, well, I'm playing armchair quarterback, looking back, Billy Graham had 2 more years as champion instead of Bob Backlund.
Yeah, that's one of those things when you go back and you really look at it, it's kind of like mind-boggling in a way. I know that as the story goes, Vince told Backlund, and Vince Sr., of course, and Vince McMahon Sr. is going to keep his word, and he put it in his book, and that's the way it goes. But it's so weird not to kind of just call an audible and change it up, be like, wow, Superstar is a huge draw here. Why are we going with Backlund?
Yeah, exactly. And, poor Bob Backlund, he was not beloved the same way Bruno or even Pedro Morales were. And he didn't stand a chance. The crowds wanted to see Superfly Snuka beat him. They wanted to see Don Morocco beat him. Because again, we go back to the cool versus non-cool factor. And, at the time there was nothing more devastating than the Superfly splash, Us as kids would climb stairs and try to emulate it, jumping on our little buddies when we're play wrestling. So,
it just baffles me too, because it's like, wow, if the guy's making money, he's drawing, he's had apparently the most sellouts. I know Bruno had the most sellouts of all time, but in a period of time, he had the most sellouts were basically like, let's say there's 18 shows, he sold out 17 of 18. He has the best percentage of sellouts. So why wouldn't you keep that going? That's crazy.
You would imagine that the audible would get called, sorry, Bob, we're pushing you back a year or 6 months or something.
Yep.
But that wasn't the case. And it's just a shame because Billy Graham had so much more to offer as champion. And then the depression that kicks in, the spiral. He's never the same guy. Kung Fu Billy is not superstar Billy, you know?
I always kind of thought that was like a FU to the business. You know what I mean?
It,
Like, I'm
it,
just going
it,
to do
it
Kung
was,
Fu.
but it was basically an FU to himself, you know?
Yeah.
He went from the most marketable, the most credible, the flashiest to the least flashiest, you know? And the only person he wound up hurting was himself.
You didn't like the mustache, I'm guessing, when he had
The,
the
the, the
mustache.
mustache, the whole gimmick was just
Yeah.
wrong, you know? And he was
Made no sense.
smaller. He wasn't as jacked, you know? It's a shame. It's a wrestling tragedy.
In a weird way, though, by not going with Superstar and not going with the big sports entertainment guy, when Hogan comes a few years later, kind of makes Hogan even more impactful because people had Backlund for that long. Now you have Superstar for that long. I don't know if Hogan's as impactful, right?
You're absolutely right. The Hogan is Superstar Graham repackaged for a new audience and as a straight up red, white, and blue baby face. And regardless of how one may feel about Hulk Hogan nowadays, back then there was nothing bigger. Hulkamania was everywhere, and Hulkamania was selling tickets everywhere. You know, limited skill set, fantastic talker, great look. Rocky 3, you know, sets him up huge. The difference between Sylvester Stallone and Hulk Hogan size-wise is astronomical. So when Hulk comes in, he's larger than life, you know? That role is the red carpet to his stardom.
Absolutely. Thunder
Lips.
Lips.
Thunder
Yes.
Lips.
Yes. Rocky 3, baby. So good. Just the interesting thing, though, like about them, obviously now it's Vince Jr. and he decides to go with Hulk, but Vince Sr. didn't go with superstar Billy Graham, and you know what I mean, like, and that's what happens. But it was like Vince Jr. had the foresight to go with the Hulkster, Vince Sr. did not. Really, even during the Backlund era, like you said about Superfly, you could say they almost could have went with Superfly Jimmy Snuka and would have been a better option at some time.
There were, you know, I've read that there were talks. I've read that there were, you know, it's purely speculation, but you know, again, when we learn our history and hear about how unstable Jimmy Snuka really was and how, you know, he basically kills his girlfriend and that gets covered up by the McMahons because he's valuable, you know, because he was a main eventer. If he's bottom of the card guy, that nobody shows up with a suitcase full of money and makes the problem go away. But yes, you know, us on the outside, not insiders, but just straight fans watching Roddy Piper smash a coconut against his head, or you know, Snuka versus Morocco. This is as great as WWF got at that time period. You know, this is the marquee matchup. This is the ultimate in athleticism, and Snuka's popularity would have exceeded Backlund's, I'm pretty sure.
Now, Putski Superstar, I know that drew well and that was a good feud, but would you say it was like split crowd, 50-50 for a Superstar with Putski or no?
When I saw him, no. When I saw him, it was definitely a pro Ivan Putski, boo, Superstar Graham, the villain crowd. And Putski was loved, you know, the Polish hammer and
Oh, yeah.
you know, all he needs to do is grab the microphone, yell Polish power, and the place goes fucking crazy, you know. And it wasn't just Polish people cheering. It was all the blue collar. It was all the New Yorkers or the East Coast folks. And his popularity was huge, Ivan Putski. Ivan Putski, if I'm not mistaken, is the guy who initially trains Bruiser Brody for professional wrestling.
And then, of course, you fall in love with Bruiser Brody. Big what if there. Obviously, if he doesn't get killed in 1988 in Puerto Rico, it's a huge what if of what could be. Even a few years earlier, the rumor that he's going to be in WWF in like 86, imagine him versus Hogan or something. I mean, that would have been awesome.
That would have been so much better than what they did for WrestleMania 2. And Brody's career was winding down. He was, kind of looking into the future. So what a fantastic way to have possibly gone out the build for WrestleMania. They're going to feed him a whole bunch of people for him to just become the indestructible, unstoppable monster. And I remember the Brody run of the late 70s, early 80s with the Grand Wizard as his manager. And, he was something, but the Bruiser Brody that is All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling, that dude is something else. That guy is just a one-man riot squad going through the audience, swinging the chain. The Immigrant Song is playing. It's perfect. So Bruiser Brody versus Hulk Hogan, that would have been phenomenal.
In the cage, too. Imagine that. It's locked in the cage with the Hulkster.
Yeah. I mean, mentally, you're imagining Double Juice. It's almost
Yeah.
like Texas Death Rules, and
Yeah.
just a slobber knocker of epic proportions.
Man, Brody's so good. I actually was recently watching just randomly World Class, and it was Booger Red, I guess. It was Undertaker under a mask. Man, Brody just destroyed him. It just just levels him. It's great.
But that also explains
Texas Red.
That also explains the future that is the Undertaker. That guy paid his dues, between getting fucked over by Buzz Sawyer to get trained, and then working under the mask as Texas Red and Mean Mark Calloway and all that kind of stuff. The dues were definitely paid for him to become the character that everybody knows and loves as the Undertaker. And again, cool factor. The Undertaker is fucking cool, okay? Whether he's riding the motorcycle or coming out of the coffin, doesn't matter. It's truly wonderfully entertaining. And, that he becomes a locker room leader. It's because when he was in the locker room with people like Bruiser Brody, he learned, he listened, and he paid his dues.
Man, the American Badass still coming out on the bike with American Badass, like with AJ Styles, put him in the Hall of Fame. That was cool. I like that.
That was really nice. That was very, very cool indeed.
Now, are you like, obviously you mentioned MJF and Moxley and stuff, so you're a current fan, or are you just AEW fan, or do you watch everything still?
I pretty much watch everything. I have a New Japan subscription. I go to indie shows like Game Changer Wrestling. I've been to CMLL at Arena Mexico. I love Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is my main reason for watching WWE, but I like what WWE has done over the past few years. The whole Cody Chase and the acknowledge me and all that kind of stuff. It's been entertaining wrestling, but I do prefer AEW to WWE.
Why is that? Why do you prefer AEW?
Match quality. The matchups are, we're getting pay-per-views for free on Wednesdays and Saturday nights. Andrade versus Tomohiro Ishii. These are dream matches that you had to get tapes from Japan in order to see. Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita, The Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander, the list, Bandito, and Commander, the Andrade, Roosh. This is, if you're playing, like fantasy football or fantasy booker, these are phenomenal talents. And it's it's got moments of ECW booking. It's got moments of New Japan, 1990s booking. It's got moments of All Japan. It's got moments of fucking FMW, where WWE has a great product and they stay within certain parameters. So it can get a bit repetitive, a bit predictable. And I don't mean to shit on WWE, but AEW, if you know your shit, and AEW is the better fucking product.
When you're looking at it too with the New Japan and getting some of those New Japan guys, I love seeing like who's like the next guy that's going to be coming up that everybody's going to be sought after. That guy Yota Tsuji, obviously he's the IWGP champ. He's awesome. I think Gabe Kidd is awesome, but it looks like Gabe Kidd might already be heading to AEW. But I always look at because I have a New Japan World. I always like, oh, let's see, who's out there that'll eventually be scooped up.
And speaking of New Japan World, I love going back into the archives. I love seeing Vader in Japan when he was the Ultimate Monster. The Bruiser Brody stuff that's theirs is fantastic. The Tiger Mask stuff. Circa 94, 95, when those first Top of the Super Junior tapes started circulating amongst the tape traders, that was the holy grail. We had never seen wrestlers like Eddie Guerrero as Black Tiger or Chris Benoit, Jushin Thunder Liger, Koji Kanemoto. This was state-of-the-art wrestling, and AEW is state-of-the-art wrestling, If you just follow the timeline and the DNA, the roots of it, it's right there in front of you. And there's a lot of ECW. There's a lot of very stiff, unexpected, quality booking by Tony Khan.
People don't want to admit this, but there's some Attitude Era booking lately too, with like 10 different things going on at once. People won't admit it, but like Crash TV style, Russo style, where it's like Orange Cassidy, then Tony Storm comes out, then Darby comes out, then Gabe Kidd, like you know what I mean, where you can't change the channel because there's too much stuff going on. They sprinkle some of that stuff in too.
The Attitude Era was fantastic.
I agree.
Stone Cold, The Rock, when Edge and Christian and Gangrel were vampires, that was must-see TV for back then. Vince versus Steve Austin was something else. And I would go to shows like at the Duck Pond, the Honda Center in Anaheim, and Zach Wilde's there, Kerry King is there, nice. And we were all sucked in. Glenn Danzig's there. It was something you couldn't miss. It was something that drew you in. Really, the Attitude Era was dope.
I hate when people go, "Oh, it doesn't hold up or it's not as good." You had to be there. You had to live through the moment.
There was that era before it where it was a little too cartoony for my taste. The tugboats and the earthquakes and all that kiddie friendly. Okay, great. That's for kids. That's the kids' product. That's for children. I'm not a child. I want ultra violence. I want the Eliminators versus the Gangsters. I want the Pit Bulls going tables against the Bruise Brothers.
So it's interesting, like you kind of were talking about all the underground stuff and tape trading, everything else. I saw a picture of you with Tony Khan. You were talking about the old AOL, the old Grandstand tape, those days. Like, so you really are like an old school underground fan. You know your stuff.
There was this clique. There was this circle of friends who would meet in the AOL Grandstand and talk wrestling for hours and trade tapes and trade shirts, and within this group, there's a fella named Jeremiah Evans who was like an ECW regular. He was trusted by them enough to like go work the merch table. Our merch person's missing. Okay. So some of Jeremiah's photos have wound up being used for like the Raven documentary and in Sabu's book, I believe. So there's Jeremiah. There's Mike Johnson, who's with PW Insider. He's, one of the top wrestling journalists. Also, there was a fellow named Todd Bangs who goes on to become an indie wrestler. And also in this group was a teenager. Nobody knew he was a teenager because he could talk the discussion. He was not lacking in wrestling knowledge, even if he was only 13 or 14, and that was Tony Khan. So
Wow.
His screen name was Tony Flair, okay? and my guy could hold his own. I wouldn't have been in a chat room with a child had I known it was a child. You know what I mean? But
yep.
All it was a screen name and typing in words. And my man knew Memphis wrestling. My man knew, Mid-South, as did we all. And it was just this circle of obsessive wrestling fans who couldn't wait to debate the latest incidents or the latest angles or the latest results.
As the years kind of went through, and
I'm sorry. And within this group of friends, this circle, also the Blue Meanie would periodically come in, and since he was in the business, it was a super big deal. He was there to set the record straight.
As you go through the 90s into the 2000s, were you on the message boards in the 2000s as well? Did you stay Death Valley Driver and all those? Were you on those or no?
I was on them to a certain extent. Wrestling being cyclical, there was a point where I was enamored by it, and then I fell out of love with it. Then AEW kicked in, and I was that lapsed fan. I was somebody who once loved wrestling and was ready to be brought back. So yeah, I remember the Death Valley Driver and things like that. But I also got out of it. I stopped trading tapes. I sold my tape collection to High Spots, and there must have been 2,000 or more tapes. They came with a truck that had a wrestling ring in it and filled it with tapes.
Yeah. Wow. Damn.
I was so obsessive. I was so gone. I mean, I had hundreds of 4S LP mode, which was the 4 hour, but there was a longer tape that would give you 5.5 at the 4 hour mode, which was better quality. And I would wait till, 5 a.m. for the WCW worldwide show to come on to tape Chris Benoit versus, Enhancement Talent number 2.
I love that. I used to love, I don't know why, in the mid 90s, I used to love WCW Pro. So I'd wake up, 9:05 Saturday morning. I'm on the East Coast. So it's 9:05, and I'd watch Pro and be like, oh, the Japanese are taking over. And wait, what is going on here? But I used to love it. I don't know why. For some reason, the 1 hour shows really, I gravitated to, because you usually get one really good match out of there.
Yeah. And I mean, when you have guys like Bobby Eaton, when you have guys Brian Pillman, these guys can work. These guys are definitely worth waking up at 9:05 for. Sort of like the New York Giants. I wake up every Sunday at 10 a.m. and usually just to watch them lose, but I can't resist the possibility that something good might happen every Sunday.
Me and my buddy, both, he's down in Florida. I'm here in Jersey, but man, we're diehard Giants fans. They're like, well, are they going to win this week? Probably not, but I'm going to sit through it. I got a 6-pack of beer, and I'm going to sit through it. I'm going to watch it all and pray that they pull it out, but usually don't.
But there's good pieces in play, between Coach Harbaugh, Jackson Dart, Cam, and Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
There's something there. And I also believe that Harbaugh will change the culture to the same discipline that the Ravens had. The Ravens were always solid. They were always formidable under his command. And we can only hope that happens to the New York Football Giants.
God, I hope so. Even on defense, Burns is really good. I know Dexter kind of took last year off for God knows whatever reason, whatever the hell is going on with him. But 2 years ago, he's the best defensive tackle. I mean, they get pieces in place. Apparently, they're going to trade Thibodeau, which I don't want to do, but they might. Abdul Carter will play a lot more, and he got better towards the end of the year. So we'll see. There's definitely pieces.
I was totally satisfied with the draft choice of Abdul Carter.
Yep. The last 4 or 5 games, he really turned it on. But before that, I know he's missing practice. He's late. He kind of was like, I don't know, maybe a little bit in his own head. But
yeah,
he'll be good, I think.
What the press dubs problematic, but who knows what it was, what he needed to work through. And the results towards the end of the season were, undeniable.
I don't want them to trade Thibodeau, but if they do, obviously, I think they'll get a good chip back, whether it's a starting receiver or whoever. I think that he'll garner something pretty decent.
Yeah. He's valuable.
So obviously, you're an East Coast guy, but now you live in the West Coast. What are you doing out there? Are you still with Guns N' Roses? Are you still hanging out with Axl?
I am still with Guns N' Roses. 40 years have passed.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Today is Monday, March 2nd. We start rehearsals later this week, and the first show is March 28th in Monterrey, Mexico at some gigantic music festival. Then we go to South America. After South America, we're home for a brief spell. Then we do Europe. Then after Europe ends, the United States run of the 2026 tour begins. And that takes us pretty much through to the end of the year. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on, wrestling podcasts to discuss consensual violence. Look at that product placement, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah, I am so unprepared to go back on tour, but just like anything else, muscle memory, you've done it. This isn't my first tour, so it'll come back to me within 72 hours.
Something tells me those guys have possibly changed over the last 40 years. Is it maybe a little less raucous out there?
It is incredibly civilized out there. We are all mature, responsible, polite men who earlier in life were, pirates, were berserkers, were Vikings. Every day was a new adventure. Now, there are still adventures to be had, but they're very under control. And it's cool as an observer to watch the change, to watch it mature or age well like a fine wine.
Man, that's got to be crazy because I remember, God, this had to be 2011-ish. I'm trying to remember how far back it was, but Guns N' Roses was playing, not Giant Stadium, but it was playing Izod, actually. It was playing where the Nets used to play basketball. So I guess it was the Brendan Byrne Arena or whatever the hell it was called. I mean, Continental Airlines had a million names over the years, but we were drinking in the parking lot, as you do before the show. You're tailgating, and it's like 8:30. I'm like, I'm not missing them. I'm getting in. My one friend stops me. He goes, "No, we're not going in yet." I go, "Why?" He goes, "It's only 8:30." I'm like, "Yeah, but they're not." He goes, "Trust me." He goes, "We're going to drink in the parking lot for 3 more hours." He goes, "Then I guarantee they come on." So we drank in the parking lot for 3 more hours. We went in 11:30. 5 minutes later, they started the set. I'm like, "Holy crap!" I go, "Oh boy!" Like, imagine that. Like 11:30, and they played like 2:30 in the morning. It was crazy. Awesome show, though.
And that was on a Sunday because me and Dizzy Reed went to the Giants game next door.
Wow.
And so the Giants versus the Texans, and the Giants quarterback was David Carr.
Wow, great memory. Holy moly. Damn, that's pretty good. So obviously you've been okay on the road. You're keeping your memory intact. That's good.
No. I have blips of clarity. I'll forget my fucking name or as one does as they get older. I've had 40 years of wonderful rock and roll and wonderful rock and roll experiences. But sometimes I get scared because I can't remember shit I'm supposed to.
Getting old.
Exactly.
crazy though with Axl. We, basically were smart on my friend. Obviously, he's seen Guns N' Roses a bunch, where he was smart enough to realize he's not going on yet. Come on, he's not going on till late. Why does Axl do that? Is he taking a nap? Is he feeling the energy? What's he? Why is he going on 3 hours later than we think he's going on?
Well, in recent history, he's been going on, on time as well as sometimes early. But back during the Chinese Democracy Tour, there was a lot of things going on, and it was him preparing to perform. It wasn't like I'm taking a nap or I'm being selfish and watching my movie until it ends or any things like that. It was just him doing everything he needed to do, his vocal exercises, his warm-ups, his stretches, in order to perform, more so than anything, just blatantly bratty or selfish. It was always with the best of intentions to go on at a certain time, but it didn't always work out.
I thought that was in a way, it was like, wow, it's so rock starish. He just goes on whenever he wants to go on, but the crowd loved it. They could care less. Like, okay, we'll just drink everything we have, in the parking lot, and then we'll go in, we'll drink some more, and then we'll wait for Axl. I think nobody cared. They were all still pumped, and obviously he was full of energy, and everybody else was until 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, those were indeed some long ass nights, and we somehow managed to get through it. And the Chinese Democracy Tour, which was Axl, Dizzy Reed, and other guys, not the current lineup.
Right.
Those were some pretty wild shows. Those were some, people at a certain point are going to look back at that era more fondly than they currently do and give it the respect it deserves. And yeah, it was the fucking Wild West.
Great show. He was awesome. And it was funny beforehand. They're like, oh, is he going to be in shape? Or, you know what I mean? All the stuff that they love to throw. Like, I remember Ozzy for years. Oh, is he going to be this? Is he like, you know what I mean? They always have to put like some sort of lore or some sort of like controversy. Like, oh, I wonder how, Kiss. Oh, I wonder if they could still do this. And then then the show is awesome. You're like, hey, leave that's the lore stuff and like that teasing or maybe make it a little controversial. It's not really true.
Clickbait.
Yes.
Yep. Let's try to stir controversy in order to get the clicks and the ad money.
Yeah, Axl, he still got it. And I was joking around with Joe Feeney was joking around saying that Chris Jericho is a better voice than Axl, and he went nuts. But but I said, I'm just kidding. Geez, relax. He went crazy.
Yeah, no. There are very few who have a better voice than Axl. And even at this stage in the game, my man is ripping. My man, delivers 3 hours every night and can still hit notes that, most singers on their best day cannot.
I forget what it was. I don't know if it was Chat GPT. I was looking up something who really has like the best voice, and he was in like the top 5 of like how they were actually saying the octaves and his actual voice and stuff. So it's like maybe people might be surprised, but if you actually listen to it, it's like, wow, this guy has an awesome voice. He can hit the high, he gets the low. You know what I mean? His voice wise is amazing, and frontman wise is amazing.
Yeah, and he takes it dead serious. He is very disciplined. Almost too disciplined. He takes his performance so serious that he has to do everything that he has to do before he walks on stage to entertain the audience. And, just watching him for all these years. And it's always been like that. It's always been, like a fighter preparing for an MMA fight. And it's hardcore. It's heavy duty.
And he's great. One of the all-time greats. When you look at it with Axl, and then remember a few years ago, he even stepped in for AC/DC. He stepped in for Brian Johnson. It's not easy to do like that kind of voice either, because you gotta be deeper than, you know what I mean? Than deeper than deep sometimes.
Axl took that tour and those shows incredibly, they were very special to him. And he auditions. He doesn't just say, hey, I'm Axl Rose, I want the AC/DC gig. He auditions like anyone else who was going to audition. And
Wow.
he rehearsed with them and traveled. And I was fortunate enough to see Axl sing for AC/DC in Columbus, Ohio. And prior to the show, I'm in the audience. I've got nice seats, but I'm in the audience and I'm overhearing the banter. I don't know if he's going to be able to pull it off. Who knows? There was skepticism. 30 seconds into the first song, everybody was losing their mind and all skepticism was out the window. Right. He fucking killed it with AC/DC, and the set benefited greatly from Axl's influence because as a diehard AC/DC fan, he wanted to perform certain songs that they normally didn't. And we as AC/DC fans got to enjoy those songs.
What random song did he play that maybe they wouldn't normally play? If you could even,
I can't remember. If I was looking at a set list, I would know. But
like, did he throw out "Touch Too Much" or something? Like something you wouldn't hear, like that too. You know what I mean? Like random. Because usually they usually play the hit, like strictly the hits usually.
And he went deeper into the old category.
That's awesome.
Old catalog with the Bon Scott numbers.
That's awesome. Love that. That's so cool. Because obviously now Brian John's back, but which is good in a way. They'll just kind of play the hits that and sprinkle in some new stuff if they have a new album. But I love when they play, especially AC/DC, if they play something random.
We all love deep cuts. We go see Judas Priest and we're hoping for the deep cut.
When you are with GNR, obviously, and you're out there, give me a story with them that you would say, as a fan, like that's not true, but it is true. Like something crazy that happened that there's no way that's really true, but it actually happened. That you can legally say.
Yeah. I mean, there's just been moments where, say, a guest appears, Angus Young joining let me try that again. Angus Young joining Guns N' Roses on stage to do songs like Riff Raff or Whole Lotta Rosie.
Oh my God, awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool. Zakk Wylde got up a couple times when Black Label Society was opening for GNR, and he jammed on, I want to say, Civil War. Moments like that are more memorable to me rather than the Spinal Tap moments. The Spinal Tap moments are usually my causing, and I'm not going to out myself.
I gotcha. I feel like I've oddly enough seen BLS probably maybe more than I've seen any other band, just because they play New Jersey so often. They always play like close venues. Like I'll see Bubba Ray Dudley there all the time, or guys that are big fans of the metal stuff. Actually, I've seen Fozzy a few times too, because they made a bunch of loops around Philly and Jersey too.
There's a big crossover from the rock and roll world and the wrestling world. I know CM Punk came to a Guns N' Roses show in Chicago.
Nice.
Steve Dr. Death Williams and Terry Gordy came to a Guns N' Roses show in '93 at the Tokyo Dome.
Wow. Holy shit. That's awesome.
Yeah. Bubba Ray, of course, is a big rock and roll fan. Nick Nemeth has come to GNR shows. It goes on and on and on. And they have a common energy. There's something about wrestling that's exciting. There's something about performing live rock and roll that's exciting. So it's only natural that the two would kind of intersect at points and appeal to people who like one or the other. They're going to like both.
I love both. Like I'm right there with you on that. That's so true. And even if the theme music sometimes is, wrestling or rock and roll and wrestling, I mean, that it works even better too.
Dude, when Sabu used to come out to Just a Little Crazy by Rob Halford's band Fight, you couldn't help but pop. Fucking Rob Van Dam coming out to Walk, couldn't help but pop, So yeah, the intro music is crucial, is a crucial part of the viewing experience.
Hey, Steiner's coming out to Welcome to the Jungle way back in the day. It was great.
Way back. You are totally correct.
Fits them too. If you think about it too, it's like, oh, sure. They come out like, oh, shit, somebody's going to get their ass kicked. And they probably were, legitimately, probably were going to get their ass kicked. Yeah.
The Steiner line.
Oof, man. Love the Steiners.
And the Frankensteiner, Scott Steiner doing the Frankensteiner back then was unheard of. That was the state of the art wrestling that nowadays, Will Ospreay is pulling off. It's the very few can do this, and just mind-blowing, mind-boggling wrestling maneuvers.
Man, Ospreay, one of the best. Hopefully he's back sooner than later here, because I know he had that neck injury, but they kind of teasing that he's coming back. I hope it's soon. He's the best.
I am a huge Will Ospreay fan. Any opportunity that I have to see Will Ospreay perform, I definitely take it. We were in London, and there was a Rev Pro show with Ospreay versus some dude named like Mad Phil or Mad Joe or some local guy. Okay. Somebody I'd never heard of, but his name was Mad something. And, the choices for that evening, Guns N' Roses had just done Hyde Park or Download. I can't remember which of the two, but it was a big gig. And then the next day was a day off. The choices for that evening was go to the Rev Pro Wrestling show or go see the Rolling Stones. I chose the Rev Pro Wrestling show.
Wow, over the Stones. That's big time. That's commitment as a fan there. Wow. Because you want to see Ospreay.
Ospreay in a tiny, sweaty, jam-packed place. And the English fans, the Rev Pro fans, they're so vocal. They're singing these songs, and even if someone like myself who had never heard these, little ditties, by the time the song came around the second time, it was easy to sing along. So yeah, I got totally involved.
Nice. And you don't regret not seeing the Stones at all?
I've seen the Stones on several occasions, and who knew when I was going to get to see Ospreay versus some guy in London ever again. Good
point. I love, though, like you said, Mexico too. Does that mean like when you're down there literally with GNR, you're going to CMLL, you're going to Arena Mexico? Like, I love that if that's what you're doing.
If it's possible, of course. And the last two tours, the show was on Saturday. Friday was a non-show day, and my schedule allowed me to go to Arena Mexico, and it's the Mecca. The energy, the excitement, the action is second to none anywhere in the world. And I've been to wrestling in Guadalajara, Tijuana, Mexico City, Japan, Canada, United States, and I've been in some pretty heated buildings, but the one that consistently delivers the most energy is Arena Mexico, at least from my personal experience.
My damn cousin, he was just on vacation. He was in like Costa Rica. He was in Mexico. I had no idea. All of a sudden, he sends me pictures. I'm like, that's Arena Mexico. He's like, I know. He's like, I'm sitting in my seat in Arena Mexico. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, oh, Mystico just won like some multi-man. It was like a bunch of guys. He's like, it's like Mystico, this guy's the best. I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, literally, he might be the best in the world right now. He's so good. All of a sudden, again, like a resurgence of this. But I was like, I couldn't believe this MFer is in freaking Arena Mexico. He just randomly sends me pictures. I'm like, man, I wish I was with him.
And Mystico's popularity is second to none to nobody in Mexico. He has just been selling out arena after arena after arena for like the past 2 years. And so when you go to Arena Mexico, picture a venue like Brendan Byrne or something like that, but all the way around each area of this street outside of the venue are gimmick tables, are mask salesmen, are, that there's something, they're action figures there, and it's all lucha centric. It's the greatest Walmart of all time. It's the greatest street fair of all time. And Mystico has a store along this strip so fans can go in and take pictures and whatnot. Fuerza Guerrera has a stand down there, or at least he had a stand when I was there. Yeah, so since the dollar is strong, you will leave with more gimmicks than you really ever need to buy.
Yeah.
And the suitcase is stuffed full of goodies.
I love that. I remember, God, this has got to be 12 plus years ago. Me and my wife were down in Cozumel, and you're a part of like the excursion or whatever the heck we're doing, going to Margaritaville or wherever we're doing. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, I got to go to the store. There was Lucha toys or whatever, and everything. I was like, I got to get masks. So I bought a La Parca mask, and we were back in the room, and it's getting really dark, and you can't really see anything in the room. But when you put the mask on, you could see the white from La Parca's. Oh, I scared the living hell out of her. Oh, the best. But she's like, you still have that mask? I'm like, hell yeah, I still have that mask. That's such a great mask.
There's the Lucha Libre Museum in Tijuana. And this place is spectacular. This place is a must visit for any lucha fan, for any wrestling fan. And we're talking there's probably 500,000 items on display. I mean, a lot of figures and rings, so things like that. And it's all one individual's collection. It's one person's, obsessive compulsive collection. There are masks on display, historical masks, Mil Mascara, Santo, Blue Demon, Atlantis, et cetera, et cetera. And back in the early 90s, when Conan was running his wrestling shows in Arena Tijuana, we used to go down. This is when Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis, Halloween, Damien Say, so we're all part of the roster. And this was Latino ECW. The building was on fire and on the verge of rioting night after night. They were doing crucifixions and putting people through tables and all kinds of, decadent wrestling promotional skills, stunts. Wild times. But yeah, the Lucha Museum in Tijuana, it really needs to be on more people's radar. It's something else.
I love that. I love that Mystico is selling out the last couple of years, just sellout after sellout, just really getting his due because, man, 20 years ago, he was awesome. I had all the tapes, literally either I'm tape trading, on like the message boards and stuff, or I'm getting it from High Spots. They used to have like Mystico DVDs on High Spots and stuff, or I get them from there. And then he goes to WWE, becomes Sin Cara, and like falls off, and then it kind of gets pushed by the wayside. Then he becomes Mystico eventually again, and then he's awesome. So I love that resurgence for him.
Yeah, the coming around full circle has been great to watch and a great part of wrestling history for that dude.
Many might say like the more updated maybe Rey Mysterio Jr. in some respects as far as like popularity, athleticism, being the complete package for a luchador.
Dragon Lee, Hijo del Vikingo.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Commander.
The next guy's coming up. Yeah.
Neon, all these guys, what they're doing with their bodies compared to what Lucha Libre once was, it's evolution. It's
Phoenix. Yep.
It's fucking A.
Yep.
Pentagon and Ray Phoenix are fantastic. I was at the AEW pay-per-view where Chris Jericho wins the belt for the very first time against Hangman Page. But there was also the ladder match with the Young Bucks versus Phoenix and Pentagon. Never seen anything like that. That was next level athleticism, just defying gravity and taking insane bumps. And a historic match that you can watch on HBO Max because I just recently revisited it and it's even better than I remember.
I remember they had a cage match that I even liked better than that. That was awesome between those two teams. I was like, holy shit. they had the spikes in the shoes. I mean, they were going nuts in the match, but it was great chemistry. Lucha Brothers are unbelievable.
Lucha Brothers are indeed something else, and they need to be put back together rather than separated.
Yeah, I was thinking like everyone was complaining about how they were booked towards the end of AEW, but what about right now in WWE? Like they should be booking them better. But yeah, that might be a different story.
One guy benefited from the move, which is Penta.
Yes.
One guy is suffering, and that's Ray Phoenix.
Yeah, he's hanging out with a crate backstage. I mean, what the hell is that all about?
Dude, it's easy to hate, so let's not.
That might be a guy up your alley, though, Danhausen. I don't know.
No. Danhausen is a cute gimmick, and I like the gimmick. I think it's great as like an attraction or a distraction. But I want Terry Gordy. I want Stan Hansen. I want wrestlers who look like wrestlers, who talk like wrestlers, and kick ass like wrestlers. And Danhausen, wonderful gimmick, but not the most convincing. If he's filling out a job application that says professional wrestler, the person's gonna be like, really? You trying to pull that one on me?
Yeah, like I don't know about that. Meanwhile, Stan Hansen, you see him, you're like, oh crap, and you see fans literally scattering when he comes out, like they're afraid of him. He's gonna kill him.
I went to a Cauliflower Alley convention dinner one year. I think I went 2 years, but 1 year Stan Hansen was there, and him and Ted DiBiase were just Ted DiBiase, a friend of mine who knew them, and myself were just at this table, and these guys were telling stories and reminiscing, and it was an honor to be in their presence.
I love that. I love going back and just watching some of that All Japan stuff. Like even if it's Kenta Kobashi against Hansen, I'm like, man, this guy is so freaking good. Arguably like the best for, as far as Gaijin going over to Japan and just dominating. And there's been so many like Brody and there's a million other guys, but Hansen was just, man, he was the best.
He was phenomenal. I saw Stan Hansen in 1993 at an All Japan card when Guns N' Roses were playing the Tokyo Dome. And also, this is Steve Williams, Terry Gordy, Richard Slinger, Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen,
Johnny Ace,
yes. And again, this is 93, and I was fortunate to be there.
Man, what a freaking roster. Holy crap. And then Misawa Kobashi, Taue, yeah, oh my God.
Akira Taue. I mean, as tragic as it is, there is no more befitting an ending for Mitsuharu Misawa than dying in the ring. That is
sad but true.
It's sad, but it's also poetic, Those guys put themselves through so much punishment for our entertainment.
Crazy. I was just watching him lose to Jun Akiyama for the first time, shockingly. God, in 2000, I just saw it. I think the anniversary was coming up. So somebody posted the match. And I was just watching. I was like, wow, Akiyama finally got the win. It was just like epic, It had like a different feel to it, like an aura to it. Like, wow, Misawa lost. Oh, my God.
That's called earning it,
Yep.
Akiyama was, always the fifth member of that 4-man crew.
Yeah.
And he finally broke through.
That was like years, like literally 10 years before when Misawa finally beats Jumbo Tsuruta. It's like, whoa, it's like a changing of the guard moment. Love it. But Del, I could talk wrestling all day. I don't want to keep you all day here. I don't want to kill you here. So what's yours? That's awesome.
Hayabusa.
Nice. Are you a fan of the new Hayabusa 2?
If I haven't really seen much, so I can't judge. I love the gimmick. I love the original Hayabusa, but if I was putting on that mask, the first thing I would do is get the Phoenix tattoo.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great idea. Such a cool gimmick. I know there was no problems with him doing the gimmick either. So if people go crazy, like, oh, it shouldn't be Hayabusa, there's no problems. It happens all the time. You know what I mean?
And he's making his American debut the weekend of WrestleMania in Las Vegas.
Yeah, GCW, right?
He's part of the collective, yes.
Nice. Very cool. That's awesome. But as we wind it down here and head towards the finish, because literally we could talk about Hayabusa all day if we're going to go F&W, but we won't. Give us one last big push for Consensual Violence and where everybody can find it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if you want to see, to read some heavy duty, no bullshit, done with love, done with respect, wrestling in the form of a graphic novel, please check out Consensual Violence, which is available in brick and mortar stores. If they don't have it, ask them to order it. And arguably the easiest way to get it is ordering through Amazon.com.
And where can everybody find and follow you as far as your socials?
I'm on all of the socials. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, which is now called X. I'm on Threads. I'm on Facebook. And usually my handle is Del James Gang.
I love that you are, such a legend, especially in the music industry with Guns N' Roses, but that you're such a wrestling fan and that you, wrote a book dedicated to wrestling. That's dedication. I love that.
Thank you. No, I mean, we all have our loves. I love sports. I love wrestling. I love heavy metal. I love horror movies. I love comic books, and am fortunate to have a certain opportunity and to make something like this come true.
Dale, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
John. Thank you, John. I appreciate you taking the time out to